Welcome to Courage, Comebacks, and Conversations. I'm Susan Lee, business leader, life and career coach, wife, and mother. This is a place where we talk about what it really takes to rise in your career, in your relationship, and in life. We're bringing you real stories, from entrepreneurs to athletes pursuing their dream, to professionals rebuilding after setbacks. Every story reminds us that courage connects us, and who doesn't like to hear a comeback story? Let's get into it. What if the moment you almost gave up was the moment everything was about to change? Welcome to Courage, Comebacks, and Conversations. Today's episode, which is my debut episode, is called The Day I Didn't Give Up. And it's one of my favorites because one of my favorite people is being interviewed today. My guest is my husband, Ed Lee. He's a father. He's an NFL wide receiver, physical therapist, and a coach. Fun fact, we met in college. I was a cheerleader. He was a football player. But what I didn't realize is what he was going through during the time that he was wearing number 26 on the football field, because it never showed. What I learned later was that he wasn't getting playing time. He felt invisible, and he almost quit football for good. His story is about frustration, faith, and the moment his breakthrough came, right when he was ready to walk away. If you've ever felt overlooked, stuck, or ready to give up, this conversation's for you. Hey, Ed.
Hello, honey.
Why don't we start from the beginning? Talk to us about your journey to South Carolina State and how you found your way into college football.
Well, I played football in Washington, D.C. at Wilson High School, and football in D.C. really wasn't that good. It was a basketball town. But I got fortunate enough to get a partial scholarship to South Carolina State. I didn't know much about South Carolina State. I saw a couple articles about them. I knew they had a good football team, but I didn't know how good they were till I got there. So when I got there, I had to change positions. I played defensive tackle in high school, and then I was recruited by Coach Willie Jeffries to play linebacker. Well, I hurt my shoulder, and I wasn't big enough, so I changed my positions to wide receiver.
Tell me about that.
Well, first of all, so I got down there, I was 198 pounds. Which wasn't terribly small. However, that 198 pounds I had was not muscle. I lost 30 pounds. I went down to 169 in Orangeburg, South Carolina. It was so hot, and we practiced 3 times a day, so I was too small. I had to change positions. The choice. I'm either going to play defensive back or wide receiver. I didn't really know how to run, so I figured I better not try to play defensive back and try to run backwards. I was barely running fast forward. So I chose wide receiver.
Okay, so now you're a wide receiver. Then what happened?
I wasn't good. I had never done it before. I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never played it except in pickup games. When I was running routes and trying to catch the ball, I could catch. The ball was coming so fast. I'd never seen passes go that fast before. So I remember the first time I went out for a pass, the ball glanced off my chest. I never saw it. Just remember everybody say, oh, you got to get your head around. I didn't even know in the world they were talking about. It was a long journey. And then I hurt my shoulder. So I had to have surgery. Then I wasn't playing at all until that next spring going into my sophomore year. And I still wasn't good.
So what happened?
I came back playing wide receiver again, not having really any experience. I had to make a choice. Either I was going to put in extra work or I wasn't going to play there. The coach that recruited me, Coach Jeffries, had a job offer at Wichita State and he left. He was my only advocate there. He's the one that recruited me. So at that point, I was on my own. I would go out at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And you remember Felton Field, the lab school on our campus. I would go there and run sprints on my own. Because one, I wasn't fast enough. I knew I had to work on that. I didn't want anybody seeing me do it. So I was out there at 11 o'clock at night, running sprints on my own. Into my junior year, I didn't know really how much I had improved. Had I not done that, I would have never known. When I watched myself on film, I didn't even think that was me. Because the way I felt on the field, I felt mechanical. I had no confidence.
Ed, I got to pause here and ask you, where were you mentally and emotionally when you were out there on that field training when no one else was around?
My confidence was low. Self-esteem was low. I knew I had to do extra to try to catch up with some of my teammates. And I just kept doing it, even though mentally, my confidence was pretty low.
Many of the players on that team were drafted into the NFL. So I can only imagine the weight of measuring yourself against prospective NFL players. How did that feel?
Like, we had guys get drafted every year, but when you're there, and especially when you have a problem sitting right in front of your face, you don't really see all of that. I knew those guys were good, and I knew I had a long ways to go before I would play, but I didn't know exactly how good they were.
So what happened next?
So I come back my junior year. I am so far down on the depth chart. They had freshmen in front of me. I mean, I was probably like on the 4th or 5th team. I mean, there was no hope in sight. I didn't realize it at the time, but a couple of players quit. Somebody got hurt. But for me, it didn't feel like I was moving up the depth chart.
Ed, you mentioned a depth chart. What is that for those who don't know what a depth chart is?
The depth chart is the order in which the players will play. You have the guys on the first team. You have guys on the second team. They're probably going to play. Third team guys, they may play when the game is kind of over and out of hand. There were some games I didn't even dress out for home games. I had a jersey. Sometimes I didn't have a uniform, a whole uniform. I wasn't even dressing out for home games. But during that season, things started happening. By default, I moved up the depth chart, but it wasn't like I was slated to play. I had never traveled to a game. I was barely suiting up for the home games. We had one of our key players get hurt. And the receiver coach came in and said, "Ed, you're going to travel this week." Yeah, I'd never got on the Bulldog bus and traveled. Well, that night, we practiced Thursday night. We were leaving Friday. They sent me back down to the scout team. I could barely get off that field.
What is the scout team so we understand where you placed in this scenario?
So the scout team are the players that don't play, and you mimic the opposing team. So you're trying to get – so for me, as a receiver, I'm going down on the offensive scout team to play against our first and second team defense to get them ready for the game. So I was not running our plays. I'm running the other team's plays. They took me off the traveling list without an explanation, took me off all the special teams because I was actually slated to play a little bit on special teams. They called out the travel list at the end of practice. My name was not called.
At that point, did you ever question your purpose or think maybe football isn't for me?
I never thought that football wasn't for me, but I was broken. I just wanted the pain to stop. So I always loved the game, but I did not love my situation and did not feel like I was being treated fairly and didn't want to do that anymore. At the end of the practice, before the team leaves, the last practice that we have, we're all huddled up by the coach, and he reads off the travel list. At this point, I was pretty sure I wasn't going. When he called the last person and I wasn't on it, my name was not called. It took all I had to get off of that field, into the shower, before I started crying. I had to get out of there.
That had to be devastating for you.
It was. My spirit was broken.
So many of you that are listening to this have been in situations where you've been passed over, overlooked, or underestimated. You can probably relate to what Ed was going through at this time. How did you take that, and what did you do next?
I went to my dorm room, and I called my parents, and in tears, telling them why I was going to quit. So I talked to my mom first, and she's asking me the scenario, and I'm going over the whole thing, what happened the whole year. Then my dad gets on the phone. I talk to him. Then my mom gets back on the phone, and she says, "Ed, have you ever quit anything?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, do me a favor. Just finish out the season. How many games you got left?" I said, 2. She said, "Just finish the 2 games. If you decide after that last game that you no longer want to play football, we'll pay your way to school." So at that point, I was able to stop crying and kind of get myself together. I was at a crossroads of this is going to be it. And there's the final game of the season, which is the biggest game of the year. We're playing Grambling, and they had their legendary coach, Eddie Robinson. And what was so strange, now, before the game, we had a pregame meal. At the pregame meal, I would eat as much as I wanted because I knew I wasn't playing. It didn't matter. But that morning when we played Grambling, something was different. Like, I wasn't scheduled to play. I couldn't eat. I had butterflies, like the same butterflies I would get in high school before a game. Like, there was something different in the air that day. So I go down to the field. Everybody's excited because Grambling's coming to town. We had never beat Grambling before. And the first play of the game, a receiver gets hurt. So now I got to go in and play special teams. I'm running down on the kickoff team, running down on the punt team. So I'm doing that. Then there's a crucial part of the game when another receiver gets hurt. So there's only me and two freshmen left.
Were you looking down the sidelines going, okay, what's going to happen now?
I looked at the coach. He looks by me. He's looking to see, is there anybody else he could put in? Now, my teammates knew I should have gone. They're saying, Ed, you got to go in. He never told me to go in, but I just went in. Because the freshmen, when he looked down there at the freshmen, they turned their head. They weren't. Now, you're talking.
They didn't want to be picked to go?
Well, they weren't ready. And you know what? When we go back and look at this game, there were on both sides, between South Carolina State and Grambling, there were probably at least 15 NFL players in that game. So I go in the game. Now, I have never played one offensive snap before in my life. I just played special teams like 5 minutes earlier. So we had Charlie Brown, played for the Redskins, the all-pro receiver on one side, and then we had Ed Lee, who had never played offense at South Carolina State.
Now, wait a minute. Charlie played for the now Commanders, which back then they were called the Redskins. So you're on the opposite side of a prospective NFL draftee.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we knew he was really good. So it's a crucial part of the game. It's 3rd and like 10, and they call a play to my side of the field by mistake. Because there's no way they're calling a pass to me, and I've never played. So as I come out the huddle, I'm lined up next to our bench, and I hear the coach ask the other coach, what play do you have? And he told him, he said, now up on the field, I hear this. He says, but Charlie's on the other side. And then the coach said, too late now. And they snapped the ball, and I'm running down the field. There are times when you're playing, you can hear the crowd, and they're loud. And when you're in the game, you can hear the crowd, but they sound like they're a long way away.
Okay.
I'm running my route, and when I turn around, the ball is on its way. And everything slowed down. The ball looked big. It was coming nice and slow. It looked like it was going to be easy to catch. I go up, I catch the ball right in front of our bench, in front of our coach, get tackled, and I just lay there. I don't even get up. I stay there, and my coach came over to me and said, Ed, that was a hell of a catch. We got a game to play. You got to get up. I was just staying in the moment. I didn't even want to move. I was just going to stay there all day if I could. At that point, the coaches saw it, my teammates saw it, and that was the breakthrough that I needed to continue.
After that crucial catch, what were you thinking?
My first thought was, if they throw me another ball, I'm going to catch that one too. So at that point, I knew I could do it. That was the breakthrough and the turning point for me in college football.
Looking back, did you have any idea that moment you almost gave up would actually lead to you being drafted in the NFL?
No, at that point, going to the NFL was no longer in sight. I was just trying to play at South Carolina State at that point. And so when I look back on it, I was one day, because that was the last game. I was one day from quitting. I was done.
What happened that got you from where you were to the NFL?
2 years later, the pro scouts came to our campus. Unlike today where they have a pro day, pro scouts just showed up and you had to work out. My coach then never gave the scouts my name, but my teammates would tell me when the pro scouts were there. So I would go down, I'd run. It was embarrassing. They would ask me, what's your name? And they'd tell me, well, the coach didn't give me your name. So they're probably thinking, this kid can't play. Coach didn't even give me his name. One morning, my teammate comes down and says, Ed, the Dolphins are going to be at the stadium. It was raining. I wasn't going to go. I told myself, I'm done. I'm just going to go to physical therapy school. And then that voice told me to get up. I ignored it the first time. Then the second time I got up. Well, now I'm late to the workout. The scout from the Dolphins was there. He said, well, you can work out, but you got to hurry up. It's raining. I ran the fastest time I ever had run. So he calls me up afterwards and he says, I don't want to get into politics. The coach didn't give me your name. Maybe you can't play football. I'm about to go up there and watch film now to see if you can play. He said, I'm going to do one thing for you. Every scout I see, I'm going to tell them, if you go to South Carolina State, you need to work out Ed Lee. Well, the man did what he said he was going to do. We talked about God's timing earlier. He gets to the film room. The scout from the Lions is there. And he said, before you leave, got to work Ed Lee out. In between class, the scout from the Lions called my room. I know you already worked out today. I have your numbers from this morning, so I will take your best numbers, but I got to see you run today. He said, what time can you be at the field? I told him 3:30. He had my numbers. I ran faster in the afternoon than I did in the morning. I broad jumped further than I did in the afternoon. So the coach that didn't give anybody names, he showed up because he said he wasn't going. He didn't believe it unless he saw it with his own eyes. So then about 3 or 4 weeks later, it was the day of the draft. I'm in my room, didn't go to class all day because it wasn't on TV like it is now, so you didn't know what was happening. I was there all day. There were 12 rounds back then. I fell asleep. I'm thinking it's over. Even though two teams, the Raiders and the Lions, had called me the night before and asked me where I was going to be, what phone number. But I'm thinking they didn't draft me. And then the phone rang. The phone had a different ring. I picked it up, and the coach said, this is Maxie of the Detroit Lions. He said, it's not our pick yet, so don't hang up. But we're going to draft you today.
I bet you were holding on to that phone for dear life, making sure nothing happened to that call.
It seemed like it was forever before he came back. And he came back and he said, Ed, welcome to the Detroit Lions.
Wow, was that like a surreal moment for you?
It was.
Yep. What was when you hung that phone up, what was the first thing you did?
I called my mother. So in football, they always talk about you're one play away from ending your career. But there's also a positive to that same saying. Whether it be football, whether it be in work, you're also one play away from being great. And like somebody on the job, you're one day away from getting that promotion. You are one day away from winning that project. It took one path, and it changed the direction of my life.
How has not giving up changed the way you define success now?
Well, even with our kids, I always ask them, do they want to be great? And not so much that they had to be the best person out there, but I wanted them to be the best they could. And so for me, success in life, whether it be sports, work, marriage, family, just being the best that I can be.
Ed, you've coached a number of young athletes going into Division I schools. How do you talk to young athletes today who are frustrated about being benched or overlooked?
So I'll tell them my story and about how, it's God's timing. It doesn't happen for everybody. Like the superstars, we see the superstars and it seems like they had it made. Like they were so good from the beginning. And then other people have to work. And you can't give up and you don't want to quit because you don't know when it's going to happen. And oftentimes it does happen. You got to stay the course. Put your head down and keep working.
If there's a young professional listening right now and they're at the point where they want to give up, they want to leave, they're done with it, they're calling home, telling their parents they're ready to quit, what message would you give them?
I would tell them to finish what they started because your breakthrough may be one play away.
What I love about your story is that breakthrough didn't come when things were easy. It came when you were frustrated, tired, and ready to walk away. How does faith play into that?
So you've heard me say before, when it comes to God, we need to have a long memory. We need to be able to think back of what God did for us in the past, how he got us through those trials and tribulations. In sports, it's sometimes the opposite. They want you to have a short memory. Make a bad play, play the next play. But when you're going through something and it's tough and it is breaking your spirit, you can only rely on God.
So sometimes the blessing waits until you've proven you'll stay, even when it's hard.
That's true. And, and I don't think it's that God is testing us, but he knows the right time. So now look back. If I caught my first pass against Howard and we're winning 55-10, it would not have meant that much. But he waited till the biggest game of the season. to make it all happen. In one of my favorite scriptures, when it says, while you are yet speaking, I will answer.
And I know you have a saying that you say all the time. So tell the audience what push means.
Push means pray until something happens.
So if you're listening right now and you feel benched by life, remember, your moment could be right around the corner. Don't give up before your breakthrough. All right, Coach Lee, I think we did okay for our first episode together. What do you think?
I think we did great.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ed Lee. I'll see you in a few minutes.
You're welcome. All right.
Thanks for joining the first episode of Courage, Comebacks, and Conversations. I hope you learned from Ed Lee that your breakthrough could be right around the corner, so don't give up. I look forward to you listening to the upcoming episodes. They will not disappoint. And please share with your friends. We should be streaming on all platforms now.
Trusting God without fear. We've been through the highs and lows. Refuse to quit, stay composed. Still here, still standing through it all. This is the comeback after the fall. Comebacks, conversations. Real voices, real